let's continue to do it.
You can't confuse issues like that.
In an orderly fashion as we started.
So,
Suleiman, let's...
You can't do that.
So,
yes.
Samson, I was trying to highlight the fact that...
So you have heard it. These local entities have not come to ask for
nobody's come to ask for the tax waiver. How do I go and offer it?
If a Chinese entity wants tax waivers and they are giving it
for a specific
what's the problem?
Has nothing to do with DTT.
Yes. So
I was trying to highlight the fact that there are and there were issues, because from the beginning of the conversation, I think the Honorable Minister had said the challenge is, what are the issues? What are the issues? And I'm saying that...
She says all she sees in the 7-page document is fanciful fears.
Yes. So what I'm trying to do is to point out what the issues are for me as a Ghanaian, and of course, as somebody who is a player within the media industry, not as an operator, but as an advocate for media development. And I think that if we are in a country where local media industries are struggling, television companies are shutting down, programs are being, closed, and staff are being laid off, and so on and so forth. And of course, we have our parliament, and I'm not denying the fact that parliament has the power to do that, and we have a situation where a tax waiver is granted to a company that apparently is a competitor, because we know StarTimes is currently an operator within the media industry, operating Max TV, a paid-for channel. So it's important to establish that it's not as though we have an entity that is new to the environment.
So right now they are doing the same business as other local indigenous people are doing. Yeah.
And then they decide that they are coming in with a project, and then they are giving tax waivers to bring in...
Point of correction here, if I may.
If you may want to note that, so that I don't get distracted. Yeah. So for me, that is number one. Number two is the fact that at least I've heard the Honorable Deputy Minister mention that there is an MOU. People say there's a contract. He would want to say there's an MOU for the expansion of the facilities that have already been built. Now, for me, what is an issue in here is the fact that I haven't heard, and I don't know whether those who originally constructed these facilities were consulted and they said, look, we don't have the capacity to provide the expansion, for which reason it is being given to StarTimes. And this StarTimes is a company that we've had issues before, and resulted in all the cancellation, and as a result of which the Chinese government decided to take certain actions against the government of Ghana, or the people of Ghana for that matter. And therefore, if that consultation wasn't done in terms of the capacity of GIBA to expand the facility and to remedy all the issues that, in terms of the channel capacity being full, in terms of no redundancy, in terms of the need for upgrades, and so on and so forth. If I don't get the impression that GIBA was given the opportunity, and then they said they don't have the capacity to deliver, and then what we do is to give that to a Chinese company, not a Chinese company, let me say, to even if it was a US company, UK company, or whatever it is, for me, it would be an issue. And I think that as a Ghanaian, and the Ghanaian people, having entrusted our mandate, our power to the government to manage, our facilities and infrastructure for and on behalf of us and in our interest, it is an issue that I think requires...
GIBA raises a question of some security risk of sorts in that sort of arrangement. Do you see it that way?
Certainly, because unless, as I said, GIBA has said, we cannot do the expansion 1, we cannot do the upgrade 2, there are issues of redundancy, there's need for mitigation of any disaster, and we need our facilities to take care of that. And if they had said, yes, we don't have capacity to deliver, then fine. But otherwise, indeed, in dealing with any foreign entity within this space, there are legitimate security concerns that we need to.
You heard the minister. We'll take someone on the line briefly. But you heard the minister, and my question to you will be: she says you had a meeting, stakeholders meeting, that was in February, and St. George refers to that. She says there will also be yet another meeting. Do you feel, or several to come? Do you feel that you were running ahead of yourselves, or that they were already consummating almost everything, and then to get you to not participate in any meaningful meeting, that any meeting that would have been held would require you only to endorse what they have already done? Is that your fear? So get ready for that.
If
get
I
ready for that. Yeah.
Just would, in 1 minute,
yes,
touch on that, because that was going to be my concluding remarks in terms of the Honorable Minister's submission on the meeting that is coming up.
Right.
When I read that in the statement, I wouldn't say that the Media Foundation for West Africa has been part of the previous consultations, and I don't think that that's an issue. But I spoke to the NMC, for example, and I spoke to.
You think it's not an issue when Media Foundation is not invited to that kind of?
Well, I don't want to invite that into this conversation.
Okay.
But the point that I'm trying to make is that the sense I get is the ministry says this meeting is going to be held within the next 10 working days, as though as and when we feel we want to meet you, we call you and you must come. And I don't think that is right enough. If you read the processes that Kenya, for example, went through in going through the digital migration process, and they were able to meet the deadline, for example. One of the biggest things they point out in their evaluation report is the fact that the whole process was inclusive, consultative, and they made sure that stakeholder voices were counted as important as the ministry. Yes, we do agree that it is the ministry that will make the ultimate decision.
Right.
But if it turns out for us to have the feeling that, look, with or without you, we can even go ahead and do what we want to do, I don't think that will get us to where we would want to go to. And I think it's important that that courtesy is extended to the stakeholders within the field, as opposed to, okay, we will meet you in the next 10 days, and if they are unable to make it, it's as though, well, we invited you, you couldn't make it. I don't think that...
Okay, when Sam George was talking, he mentioned someone, Chief Crystal. We are joined on the line by Dr. Chief Crystal Jirako. He's chairman of the Council of Elders of GIBA. Thank you for joining us, Chief Crystal.
Hello.
Right. Now...
Good morning.
Good morning, good morning.
Yeah.
Right, so you are a broadcast engineer, I understand, and you have had some role to play in some of these things as far as the NCA is concerned. What do you say about the current situation? Is there really a problem? The minister doesn't see any issues coming out.
Thank you very much. I think this whole problem, as I heard from the programming so far, it's just about the ministry not engaging. I say this because we don't propound even theories in engineering. We do not manufacture systems. We are consumers. We depend on the outside world to make sure that what they have, we take. Now, if you look at the speed of dynamism, in calculating it in the ratio, in analog domain, things move from 1 to 27 years. In digital, it's only 1 year to 3 years, things are changing. The question GIBA is asking is that if you come out to a roadmap agreed by the whole country, and it's not coming out of nothing, it came out of serious consultation, including the dynamism of change, then we are asking that we need to do an expansion of a service when you have established a digital migration broadcasting committee, including the institution that the state has put up, NCA. Relegated to the back, these are the things we will find. I say this because the minister, with all due respect, must understand that any action that is taken, especially the one that has been taken by supporting either they or the Ministry of Finance or Parliament supporting the StarTimes exemption alone, how dangerous that is. She's not seeing the impact, and I want to explain it. You see, in broadcasting, particularly in the digital domain, we have three major components: the transmissions, the receiving, and the systems of receiving. We have the hardware, particularly now on the consumer side, the hardware, the software, and the middleware. Anybody from anywhere who takes control of any of this will take the media space. I do not think I heard GIBA saying that they are taking the DTT infrastructure, occupying the media space, and that is why the DBMC will have to come into help. You see, the media space is as such that once even the exemption that they give to StarTimes, even if they don't take the infrastructure, the boxes they have in the system today, we call it combo box for the ordinary person. It access satellite transmissions, access digital transmissions by anybody who set up these transmissions. The agenda, wherever, and I'm a player in this industry for more than 43 years, set up in consultancy, and I'm telling you the fact that if the ministry doesn't see that if you give this kind of tax waivers to an operator, even if they give out all the boxes in the system free, particularly with the ministry, the government, pushing for it with the understanding that it's a grant, with the understanding that it's going to aid the less privileged of people in the rural areas to enjoy digital divide, the effect of it is not different from having a legal tender that we all agree to say this is our currency. Then somebody else is introducing another currency. Once you do that in technology and you back it up, you are destroying the very roadmap, you are destroying the very DTT infrastructure that we have. And I am wondering that if it's a grant of the amount I'm hearing, and such boxes are rolled around, I do not think the minister really intentionally wants to damage the Ghanaian. I don't believe in that. She may not understand the effects of it. That's why I say, if you relegate the DBMC, I heard they are dealing with a consultant. Look, in the DBMC, we have people from the Ministry of Environment, the Institute of Engineers, all the universities in Ghana, University of Technology, GIBA, GDC. It's democratically well set up. I can tell you today that the expansion that they are talking about, without using spectrum, as I speak, with the dynamism, 1 to 3 years, there is already a technology which is a high efficiency video coding. This one, you can double exactly what KNET has done without, and I can demonstrate it if they want. I think the DBFC has a lot, the NCA has a lot. If we are genuine in our approach, it is not a consultant's matter. I speak not as a politician, as a Ghanaian who offer what I have. When we do not do meetings, when we don't engage, if you go and invest in the wrong thing, if you invest in the property that somebody has planted into his system because of our ignorance, what will happen to us is that without doing anything, you take the broadcasting space. And I can prove it even practically on the blackboard.
The suggestion is that GIBA is, a group or a union of, as it were, business people. So you are only interested in protecting your businesses. Can I understand why, as a citizen, generally, I should be concerned and I should join you in what you're talking about?
Okay, I'll tell you something. Like I mentioned, counterfeiting. If you have a roadmap and you decided a level playing field, and then the government will support somebody to bring in, I will even advocate that whatever as a grant that StarTimes will bring in as boxes should be held down. Otherwise, you are going to distort the market process. It is the same government or the NCA that license. Look, we have 7 free-to-air satellite licenses in Ghana, including multi-TV. We have 8 pay TV licenses, or 7 or 8 alternatively, in this country. What is the problem is that you have, if you give such a support to one pay TV, when they are going to be charging 15 Ghana cedis after the 6 months, you are only distorting the market. And I think as government, this thing should be looked at very properly and critically. Apart from we being players, it is not the best. The best thing to do for government is to facilitate and equip, give capacity to all equally. If you do that, the people will take the space. We have only eyeballs. And is
it to be understood?
When it comes to this,
is it to be understood? Is it to be understood, Chief Crystal? Hello, Chief Crystal. Is it to be understood that?
I want to bring a point.
Yeah, is it to be understood that the ordinary Ghanaian, poor Ghanaian, will have access, will be able to afford in a regime with StarTimes than it's able to do in the current situation, and therefore you are merely protecting your business?
Okay, I'll tell you. Whatever StarTimes is offering, I'll tell you how multi-TV has offered it, how every other licensed broadcaster who has set up has offered it.
Okay.
If we all have the same way, have tax waivers, which is the major component of cost. Look, we all buy the receivers and everything and the TVs they describe from the same market. So the market cost is the same. The difference is if you give advantage to someone that will not pay more, and as an individual, a private entity, what you are costing in the market is that you are giving space. And I wonder if a government would do that if they understood what they are doing. So it is not about we saying that somebody is taking, you are distorting the market, and somebody will take the space because the gadgets, the middleware alone, and the question is, what StarTimes is bringing into the country? Have they investigated what type of boxes? Say, I have one. And you have to, and I can put it on the space for people to evaluate. The boxes have StarTimes licenses, software, and they have licensed CAs. It has the middleware applying to StarTimes. Now, even if it is freely given, then you are closing the door to multi-TV. You know, the change in technology, for instance, when we started the DBMC at the ministry, there was the issue of T when GBC was doing T. At the close before a cabinet approved the document, we had a technical argument. We have Institute of Engineers. Everybody, the argument was that at this stage, if we apply the T, we will be having a legacy system because we will not have spare support from the manufacturers. So we quickly looked into the future and adapted T2. It didn't take 3 years. It was only within the same year when they scrap out the T, you will not have any equipment support. So what is even multi-TVD? Clever. Okay. You all heard in this country when they said that they are doing swap. It's cost to them. So they have to swap all the decoders. Okay. Now, why are we not working together so that everybody is put on the same line so that the country move forward? Okay. For the DTT, whether they take the platform or not, the moment the ministry supports this village thing they are saying, I heard the village is Dansoma, they are starting in Dansoma. It is not a village. Okay. You have to look at the game of the business entity that is coming with the ideas. It doesn't mean they have money. Okay. As a country, I believe in my country. I believe strongly that my country would defend whatever we do as a people, the gains we make, against whatever reason or funding. That is my belief. This is why I'm lost.
All right. Thank you.
I want to believe the ministry is not engaging. They may not understand the critical nature of it. The space will be taken. That is what we are saying.
As far as you understand, the Ghanaian entity like the KNet is not incapable of doing what is being offered the Chinese company.
He's not even talking about the
like I said, we will even say spectrum. If they engage the engineers, they would tell you how to double that same space. Sometimes decoders that we have in the country already have the HEVC. Like Crystal TV, we have HEVC, multi-TV, because we are thinking ahead.
All right.
So why do you allow that with the tax? That's the only difference, and you plant it out everywhere.
Thank you, Chief Crystal. Thank you very much for your intervention. And I ask you the question. You are going to be brief about it because I'm going brief with all of you so that we can conclude on this discussion. I ask you the question. I ask you the question. Is it your fear that now, if you go into the next meeting, you are going to have a lot front-loaded, things that have been consummated already, contracts that have been signed, and you simply being asked to rubber stamp them? That's your concern. Or why don't you want to wait as you are being urged by the minister?
I like the question, the way you have structured the question. Is that the fear? At least the minister recognized that there is a fear which she terms fanciful. She says she doesn't see what is in the document, but she sees the fear. She calls it fanciful. She's seen it. We are grateful. That's all. The next thing I want to say is this. You are talking about if there is a meeting. In fact, that is our problem. Will there ever be a meeting?
She says there'll be many.
And I'm saying...
I'm giving you an answer right here and now.
And I'm saying, this is what she said when we got up the last time. We waited 7 months. She says in 10 days, which she did not consult anybody, which she hasn't said, if it is not convenient, let us know when it will be convenient. But it's, you're a lawyer, I'm not a lawyer, I'm going to use a term. It's a mandamus, 10 days, let us meet. Wherever you are, stop what you are doing. We are waiting for the invitation. Now to your question.
Is it important to you or not?
I'm going to give you an illustration and permit this illustration. Your father is out there, married to your mother. She's chasing a woman. You are saying I should wait till my father has married the woman before I ask her questions. Or you are saying my mother should keep quiet and should not assume that she suspects that my father is about marrying another woman. She should wait till the wedding is over. What do the lawyers say? Well, the point is this. We see, we hear, we ask questions, we don't get answers. We see the direction you are going. And just as Chief Crystal has said, we know the confusion you are going to bring in. But let me also say one thing. The minister said the process started in 2006 when ICU signed in Geneva. I want to place on record that there is a document available to the ministry which needs to be searched, known as the National Telecoms Policy, which was put together in 2005 towards the signing of the agreement. And it was put together by a group of people who were made up of private broadcasters who were thinking digital.
Okay.
And so the thought
it's not 2010.
Thank you. Let me explain what happened. So after the process from 2005, which started, which went into 2006, which guided, explained why we should go and sign in 2006, that group was maintained and was officially reconstituted to include all others. And 2010, they were recognized and given a name and started advising the ministry on the way to go forward. Now, something before I go. We are talking about the relegation of that group. 4 years now, they have not been consulted. They've not been called to any meeting. And there is a consult. It is for the minister to prove the last time they met with them. There is a consultant who is now advising the ministry. And the Ghanaian entity has been set aside. And we are here talking about bringing in a Chinese company to help us develop local content. If you have the local content already and you will not recognize it, what other local content are you looking for?
Thank you.
I rest my case.
Sam George, look, the minister was upfront about this and spoke about the fact that we are losing a lot that we are supposed to get from China as a result of this, bad blood, occasioned by this kind of thing. Questions are being asked. China has pledged $60 billion to Ghana in the last 2 decades and released only $3.4 billion. Angola has received $44 billion of $50 billion pledged. Not a single paper has been published by Ghanaian academics and bureaucrats analyzing the factor that drive Chinese fulfillment of pledges. That's Bryce Simmons. Don't we see that the government has a mandate, and the Chinese route or the Chinese path is a path to accelerating that development drive?
Thank you. I'll start from where you ended and then address all the issues, because listening to the minister, I had a retching feeling in my stomach, because I asked myself, is my minister, who's paid with my taxes, is she speaking for me as a Ghanaian, or is she protecting Chinese interests? And I'll explain why. If the government has a mandate, and the government thinks that the execution of its mandate is by offering sweetheart deals to China and Chinese entities, as against the spare parts dealer in Abosiokai, who gave the mandate in the first place to the government, who is suffering and reeling from overtaxation. The minister and myself are MPs. Our salaries are being slashed further thanks to an increased payee tax. Same as you, if you're a media broadcaster earning a certain level, or teachers and doctors. GIBA is reeling under the corporate tax regime. All of these people who gave the government the mandate, the minister says that they are really not that important. What is really important is being able to fulfill its promises by way of offering sweetheart deals. The minister says that she's heard a lot of noises. I've heard her deputy also use the same phrase. Madam Minister, when Ghanaians who have given you a mandate are raising issues with the modus operandi of your ministry, the least you can do is offer us a listening ear and not tell us we are making noises. That's most disrespectful. Secondly, when you say GIBA is fighting for the benefit of his members, who did you expect them to fight for? Spare parts dealers? No. They will fight for GIBA members. And who are GIBA members? GIBA members are Ghanaians. GIBA is not a foreign organization. GIBA is Ghanaian broadcasters. I don't know if you've done it, but the NDC minister who you mentioned, Dr. Maniboama, before rolling out the DTT platform, visited the studios of every GIBA member, and he understands their plights. He went to Chief Crystal's studio and saw that Chief Crystal had imported equipment for his own digital rollout. And government has said that that equipment is going to go to waste because you are using a single platform. That is lost to him. So the NDC administration, he came to multimedia, saw your improvement in your infrastructure for digital rollout, which is going to waste. That is why the NDC administration, under Omani Boama said, and John Mahama, when we roll out the DTT platform, for the first year to 2 years, the GIBA members will be on the platform for free. Because we realized that they had put in their own cost. You may not have a full appreciation of what GIBA is going through. So you would say that GIBA is fighting for its members' benefits. Its members are Ghanaians who employ Ghanaians. You say the ministry has its own interest. And so if where the ministry's interest and GIBA's interest align, then we can have a conversation. What is the ministry's interest? From this conversation, it is clear to me the ministry's interest is protecting Chinese business. Because you say to me,
if a few thousands of employees of these Ghanaian companies will have to be laid off as a result of the entrance of StarTimes, so that ordinary Ghanaians, a lot more, the greater interest, is that not what should be served?
Well, there's no guarantee of that.
There's no guarantee.
There's no. We're entering the realm of conjecture, something. And please let me just give you a reason why I said the minister has established on this platform what the ministry's interest is. We've established GIBA's interest is protecting Ghanaian jobs,
right,
and Ghanaian players in the broadcast space. The Ministry of Communications' interest under this administration and this dispensation clearly has been defined as being protecting foreign interest, and I'll explain why. The minister says that the termination of the contract was ill thought through against the advice of the then Chief of Staff. She's not adduced any evidence to that, and the Minister of Finance, she's not adduced evidence to that. Okay. I can put out a letter by the outgoing head of the China Exim Bank to the former minister, Dr. Omani Boama, thanking him for the cooperation. Because you see, StarTimes is not the only Chinese player in that sector. The ministry that the minister sits in, the building she sits in, was built by a Chinese company at the same time that this StarTimes contract was terminated. Top International. Okay. ZTE, another major player in the industry, is a Chinese player.
Huawei, so I need you guys to be very brief.
And let me tell you, the minister says that government, and that's why I say she doesn't speak for the Ghanaian interest. She's positioning herself as saying that government of Ghana must respect the sanctity of its contracts. Let me read the partial award by the International Commercial Court. This is what it says on page 38 of his ruling. Paragraph 144. For the reasons set out above, the tribunal awards and declares as follows. A. Clause 41.11 of the GCC is not subject to an obligation not to exercise the right of termination irrationally, capriciously, or for an improper purpose. B. Clause 41.11 of the GCC provides the respondent, that is the government of Ghana, with an absolute right to terminate the contract at any time and for any reason, subject to payment of any sums due under clause 41.1.3. This is what the International Commercial Court is saying. Yet our minister, who is supposed to be championing this, she gives me the chills because I see a repeat of the drill ship saga, where we are basically telling an international court that is ruling in Ghana's favor that the Ghanaian officials, elected officials, are saying that Ghana doesn't have a case. Look, let us just be clear about one thing. Yeah? When you say arbitration affects international relationships, it's not true. Ghana and Ivory Coast currently have a fantastic relationship, even though we want an arbitral case against them. This whole issue, and why I call it a sweetheart deal, madam, is that even though you sit here and say that you have not signed a contract and anything, a letter you wrote on the 22nd of June to your colleague minister, the Attorney General, spells out clearly how StarTimes got this contract. As part of your terms of wrongfully pulling out of arbitration, you said you are engaging with support. This is what you wrote. The ministry to complete an assessment on the construction and operation of the national DTT transmission network with reasonable assistance and support from StarTimes. Further to the assessment report, which StarTimes is to help you do. Further to that report, both parties will prepare an amended scope of work of the original StarTimes contract.
Please
so
basically,
in concluding, basically what our Minister of Communication has done is that Ghana is winning a case in the ICC against StarTimes. But because of political expediency, like she has admitted to, that they need to access other loans for other projects, we should go and contract a $95 million facility that we don't need. How do we contract it? Let's get the recipient of that loan, StarTimes, who is going to come in and kill Ghanaian businesses anyway. But because we want to fulfill certain other political promises, let's get that company to come and assess the work done by a Ghanaian company, find faults with it, and on the basis of that, we give them a contract. When they came and did the assessment, their own report indicates that the Ghanaian company, Gov't, has delivered beyond expectation. So what is the only recourse? You can't find fault to the existing platform. Let us expand the platform when we don't need it. Without consulting your stakeholders, I'm coming, please. Without consulting your stakeholders, I'm ending here. You met the stakeholders on the 12th of February, 2018.
You have said that already.
Post that, less than a month later, on the 8th of March, you go to Cabinet for an approval for this expansion project without mentioning it to the stakeholders. On the 16th of March, you go and secure EPA permits for the expansion of the DTT project. On the 29th, you sign an agreement of March, a settlement agreement with StarTimes, again on the blind side of the stakeholders. And what breaks my heart, without involving your stakeholders, who you say are noisemakers today, on the 5th of April 2018, the ministry goes ahead to sign a contract with StarTimes to reinstate the original contract. When GIBA heard this and asked you in a letter in July, you failed to respond.
They're saying these stakeholders should constitute the board of governors that the ministry should
The ministry is refusing to institute the board, because if the board of the management company is in place, it will be the job of that body to be taking decisions on expansion and not the ministry.
Thank you. So let's hear your quick responses to these concerns that have been raised. And it does appear that you need to look at the letter, the 7-page letter again.
I have looked at it. Which the GIBA letter? Oh, I have looked at it. But all that it's telling me is that where the ministry is handing over the DTT platform to StarTimes, which is not true. At the last meeting of stakeholders, several issues came up, including the composition of the board of the digital migration company. And so I'm surprised that when they made inputs into the composition of the board of the company that is going to manage the platform, they will turn around and say, we are handing over the platform to StarTimes to manage. So if those are not fanciful fears, then I don't know what they are. Because over and over again
on that issue,
I'm coming.
On that issue, the NMC has an issue with you. That the NMC, constitutionally constituted body, should be the one determining what should happen as far as this company is concerned.
What is this company doing?
They should be constituting this company and its board. They should not only be invited to be members of that board. They are responsible for GBC and other state, media organizations.
Media organizations providing content. This is an infrastructure company. It's akin to telling the Ministry for Roads that you build the road and let GPRTU manage the road for you. That is what NMC is saying. Even at that meeting,
it appears,
the stakeholders...
you are pushing them to court, as I listened to Jana Painting this week.
I'll be quite happy to meet him in court on this matter, if that is what he intends to do. At that meeting, the stakeholders agreed that even NMC should not be on the board of this company as a regulator. Neither should the NCA. That was part of the input that the stakeholders made, and Sam George was at that meeting. If I'm wrong, let him say so. So even NMC's role, please, even NMC's role in being on the board of this company was disputed and challenged by the stakeholders at that meeting. So in the revised policy that has been given to them to review, subject to our meeting again to finalize it, NMC has been removed from the board of this company. NCA has also been removed from the board of this company in the proposed membership of the board. So let us not still, I'll use that phrase, confuse issues here.
So move to your next issue.
A lot of issues have been raised. So if you would just allow...
We have very limited time, so quickly canvass them.
Sweetheart deals. What is the sweetheart deal? And I listened very carefully to Chief Crystal, and he confirmed my suspicion, which is motivating what the statement that GIBA put out. And GIBA put out this statement after the notification of the launch of the StarTimes 300 Villages process came out. And so the timing of this is very interesting to me. That yes, they want to protect the interest of their membership, and that is fine. I would also fight to protect the interest of any Ghanaian company. as much as it is in my power.
It's not evident.
So far, nobody has brought any issues before me which needs my intervention, either for the imposition of a tax waiver for any business that they are doing. Nobody has had any engagement with the ministry as to, unfortunately, the ministry isn't in a position to even intervene in many of these matters now because it no longer has supervisory authority over the Ministry of Information, as it did previously. And so I'm only interested in the infrastructure which is being put in place, which is my mandate. As to the content and the way you do your business, the relevant ministry which has authority to assist you in that respect is the Ministry of Information. My business is the infrastructure, and I'll make sure that the most robust infrastructure is put in place. The company will be in charge of the middleware and the software and the management of the infrastructure. Neither Gov't, who built the infrastructure, nor StarTimes, who may enhance the infrastructure, would have the duty of determining how that infrastructure is operated and how your businesses are engaged on that infrastructure. I have news for you. At that next meeting, we're going to discuss fees that you're going to be paying for being hosted or after being hosted on that platform for free for over 2 years. All these are issues that need to be discussed. But before we call that meeting, we need to have matters that will be discussed at that meeting finalized, which is the process we've been engaged on up to this point. So if you sit here and you say the ministry is giving sweetheart deals to Chinese companies, I have news for you. Ministry of Communications building, yes, that was built by a Chinese company. And the company was paid 70% mobilization upfront. And its subcontractors bolted with the money. The building that we live in, which we have occupied for less than 2 years, is falling apart. And you are comfortable making allusions to that?
So maybe this is why you should not be handing our DTT platform to a Chinese company.
Excuse me. I don't want to confuse issues here. Who is giving sweetheart deals to Chinese companies?
You are.
You did.
You are.
You did.
Signing a $95 million deal that we do.
Did I hear you say, when you announced that you have news for GIBA, did I hear you say that the regime that we understood was to encourage these businesses for them to stay afloat, where they were to be hosted for free for a period?
They have been.
Okay. That you're going to review that and that now they will have to pay.
They are all aware that they will have to pay at some stage.
Okay.
That platform has to be self-sustaining. It's not a charity.
Okay. But Madam, you said you circulated the draft policy. The stakeholders have not received any draft policy.
Sorry.
We're coming to a meeting and we don't even have a copy of the policy document we are coming to discuss in 10 days' time.
Okay, thank you. The question that's being asked that the NCA, which is under your ministry, has been advertising to sell 3 lots of their 4G spectrum to raise money for the DTT project. Why do you need an Exim Bank, loan, facility to be able to undertake the process?
Unfortunately, Gov't is still owed on the execution of the first phase of this project. We were supposed, the current arrangement is costing this government about over $100 million. We're only able to sell 1 block of spectrum for $67 million. That money is exhausted. In addition to paying Gov't, we also had to pay legal fees out of that same money. We had to pay an independent engineer, which the previous government also contracted out of the same money. So the 67 million has been unable, it hasn't even paid half of what is owed to Gov't. We need to get more money out of the sale of spectrum to complete the first phase of this project before we look for additional funding to look at expansion of the capacity of this project. I would have wished that GIBA would have offered that our members would put up so much money to assist in this process.
Okay.
So far, you are making interventions, for one lack of I won't even call it noise.
Have you also examined?
You're making interventions.
Have you also examined?
Now, they are no longer noise. This morning you called it noise. This morning you called it noise.
Noises.
Now you are calling GIBA ugly noise.
Don't push me.
Sorry.
Don't push me.
Another quick one.
If you open the door, we'll all go through.
No, sorry, Sam George.
I am not going to. Wait.
Another quick one.
Another quick one.
I was going to ask you, have you, because this has come up over and again, have you also examined to find out whether there's cause for concern where StarTimes has operated and there are problems all over? There are revocations of their license in many African countries.
When you read, that's why I asked Sam George to read what the revocation of the license was about. It was about them managing a platform and not giving access to free-to-air channels to operate on that platform. And that is why that license was being revoked.
And it has been notorious.
They are not going to be managing this platform. That is a key point which is being lost in all this conversation. The Central Digital Transmission Company is going to be managing this platform and determining who is hosted on it.
Honorable Minister, you are aware in Zambia, the entry of StarTimes was not management. It was expansion of infrastructure in Zambia. When they defaulted on the loan, that is how the StarTimes has now owned 60% of what is the equivalent of our management company in Zambia, the ZNBC, and now controls the platform. So it is always a route of entering. StarTimes is entering through the window.
Ghana is not Zambia.
If there is a default, they will take the platform.
Is not
that is what we're talking about. Oh, so now you admit that there are places where they came in to expand and then they've taken over the infrastructure.
Look, it may be useful then to know what constitutes the collateral for the loan we are taking, because as we understand,
we're not even there yet.
If we do default,
but you signed a contract.
If we do default, that's a Ghanaian company. If
have you signed the contract or not?
If it's unable,
then what is in it? Tell us.
Sorry. If we do default, they are going to have to, fall on some collateral of sort. So Ghanaians ought to know what exactly is in this.
No loan agreement has been signed. All you've seen is an expression of intent so far. Hang on.
And they are supposed to take over the DTT platform and run it for a number of years to pay the loan.
Who said? Which loan?
Maybe there's no sufficient
What are you reading from? Where are you reading this from?
Maybe there's insufficient information.
No. You signed as minister.
Where are you reading from?
You signed as minister. Tell us.
Tell
us what is in the contract.
Any contract I have signed. I don't know
what is in the contract.
I don't know what document you are reading from.
This is a Zambian experience.
Thank you.
The contract you signed on the 5th of April 2018, Madam Minister, what is in the contract? What are you offering StarTimes?
No, but what we understand is that in Ghana, this is the default situation clause that you are
because that's StarTimes modus operandi across Africa. That is what they do everywhere.
So, if I say they are fanciful fears, I am right.
Madam Minister, tell us what you signed.
Please.
Why are you running away from telling us what you signed?
I have not signed any.
Please.
You've not signed the contract?
Sorry, don't interfere again.
Don't interfere and don't stampede me.
I know. We know that the deputy minister has suggested there was nothing like that. I'm sure that later
I'm challenging the minister. She signed. It wasn't the deputy minister who signed.
Right. He didn't know.
She is the one who signed.
So
I'm saying you signed a contract on the 5th of April 2018. True or false?
Okay.
To expand the DTT infrastructure. True or false?
And does that contract contain terms of any loan agreement?
So you signed a contract without terms of agreement. What have you signed then? What have you signed Ghana off to? You're a lawyer. What have you committed Ghana to?
Thank you. Please,
you can't tell us the terms of agreement
that and allow me to do my job. Thank you very much. So in some 1 minute, can you wrap up for us in some 1 minute, so that I have him have his you do some 30 seconds for us.
The contract becomes effective.
Okay, so
you should have the terms.
No, wait. She's looking for that and to help us, so that some of the conjecture, as she says,
I don't like fancy. You're reading from a Zambian contract.
No, but I'm saying that
you are reading from a Zambian contract.
I have become aware that in the case of Ghana, if we default in paying back the loan from the China Exim Bank, it is in the agreement that StarTimes will take over the DTT platform and run it for a number of years to recover the loan.
There is no such contract between Ghana and StarTimes.
Okay.
And there is no agreement between Ghana and the Exim Bank. Because
sunshine is the best disinfectant, so that maybe we should all have to know.
Since you've asked the question, give me a chance to explain it. All China Exim agreements with Ghana are governed by framework agreements.
Right.
The current framework agreement governing Ghana-China Exim Bank projects has expired. And so there is no framework agreement governing China Exim agreement.
Okay.
There is no loan agreement.
Okay.
The Ministry of Finance has now applied for another framework agreement to be put in place. Until that is done, until there's a loan agreement between Ghana and China,
all right,
until that agreement has gone to Parliament for ratification and approval, there is no loan agreement.
All right.
I haven't seen any loan agreement to cover this.
I'm not asking about a loan agreement. I'm asking about a contract. What did she sign as minister?
And I'm telling you that the contract says until all these things are done, there is no contract. There's no effective date.
You're not answering my question.
I have answered your question.
Thank you.
What did you sign? What did you sign?
What I signed.
What are the terms of reference of the contract?
Okay.
I'm not asking you about the loan agreement.
The contract says that
you've made your point.
The contract says it will be financed by a loan agreement between China, Exim Bank, and Ghana. That China and listen carefully. That China Exim Bank agreement will be governed by a framework agreement. That framework agreement is currently not in place. So 1, there is no framework agreement. 2, there is no China Exim loan agreement. 3, as we speak today, 1, until all these things are done, there is no effective date for this contract to begin.
So why was the holy rush for you to sign that contract?
Holy rush?
Sam George, sorry.
Because you need to start a process. We were hoping to activate this entire process before the termination, conclusion of this loan agreement in April last year. That was overtaken by
believe that Ghana will have a superior position to superimpose on the framework agreement terms that will not hurt. That's the assurance?
Absolutely.
When we are looking to China for almost a lot that we need to do?
Because we are motivated and guided by the best interests of the people of Ghana, who have given us the mandate to govern this country.
Thank you.
Well, so the spare parts and importers don't agree.
We will not create our own
tax waivers.
set of absurdities. Invite everyone else to also go along with us.
Okay.
There is no loan agreement with any terms whatsoever.
Thank you.
So you
thank you, Suleiman. I'm very sorry, but can you in a minute just give us your last comments?
And we are fighting for the interest
after you have heard them from the minister.
Not Chinese.
Thank you, Ursula.
I really do need to address that issue.
Thank you,
because
you've done so.
He sat here and accused me of fighting for the interests of Chinese companies as against the Ghanaian people.
Thank you. Thank you.
The membership of GIBA have not come before me with any particular assistance that they require from me.
Opportunity to expand the network?
They haven't
put you have offered to StarTimes.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Suleiman.
Okay, so I think I have just about.
You can't just be that unfair.
Quickly, do it quickly. Do it quickly.
You can't do that.
Sorry, thank you.
When you give contracts, give 70% realizations, and the contractors abscond.
Thank you, Esla. Proceed. Just go ahead. Esla, thank you.
I think that if there is anything so crucial, so important for our ministry to do, is for it to demonstrate its commitment and support for Ghanaian businesses, as China did to StarTimes when there was that issue between Ghana and StarTimes.
We intend to do just that.
And in this particular case, businesses here refer to the Ghanaian media industry.
Absolutely.
And I think that if there is any one important thing that the ministry can do is to support the growth and development of the media industry. 2, I think that one important thing that perhaps we all need to think about and begin to engage ourselves with is this whole issue of a broadcasting law. We are doing all these convoluted discussions without thinking of what framework would eventually guide how our media industry, or particularly our broadcast industry, would operate. If StarTimes is coming in, or whichever entity is coming in, under what laws would they operate in terms of content, in terms of transmission, and so on and so forth. I think that it is so crucial. And the very last point that I want to make is that in all this conversation, if there is one thing that is clear, it is that there hasn't been transparency and there hasn't been consensus building. And going forward, I would appeal to the ministry that it is important to engage stakeholders, for stakeholders to at all times know what the decisions are, what the plans are, so that they can well position themselves. And then finally, since the minister mentioned that the tax waiver was granted and is being granted to not just this particular company, but many of them, and it's perhaps because she hasn't gotten, any such an appeal from GIBA. I would appeal that perhaps GIBA need to put in some appeal on this intended decision that fees be paid because they've been hosted on the platform for free for a number of years.
That they would have to pay
to extend it, you know, to maybe give an additional extension, particularly given the struggles that the media industry has been going through in recent times.
Yes, we're taking a break right now, but there's a critical point that the minister makes. It does look like if you pay attention to that, we may sort out some of the issues. That there is the central, that company that will be set up. That is the company that will be responsible for the management.
Absolutely.
And so it is not StarTimes, which feeds into the fear that if the StarTimes that's going to manage. She says, no, it's not StarTimes that's going to manage.
No, but Samson, excuse me. Samson, sorry to budge.
Just 30 seconds. I'm going for break now.
1 second.
Or you may be cut off.
1 second. In the policy agreement, the policy document that we have proposed, we cited that, and which we have all adopted, that there would be a PPP. This company, as we are being told, has been formed without the involvement and any information coming to the stakeholders. This is the problem. Yeah. We have adopted this.
You're going to generate yet another discussion. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. And my guest for the first segment of the Newsfile this morning have been Mrs. Ursula Owusu-Ekoful. She's MP Ablekuma West and the Minister of Communications. Samuel Nete George is MP Ningo Pram Pram and member Parliament Select Committee on Communications. Sulemana Brahima is Executive Director, Media Foundation for West Africa, and also Andrew Danso is the President of the Ghana Independent Broadcasters Association. Loads of questions still seeking answers. We certainly will continue with this discussion some other time. We'll go for a break now, and when we return, my guests who have insights into the petroleum industry will join us to look at what is happening in that front, including securing the independence constitutional of the Auditor General. We'll be right back. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.